My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska with Keller Williams, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate. And today, we're going to be talking about what's going on in one of the largest real estate markets in the state, and that is the MatSu Valley. So the MatSu Valley continues to be a pretty interesting market to be studying. We're starting to see some trends here that kind of makes it a little different from most other markets here in the area. Before we get started though, do make sure you give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and let's go and jump in the market update, looking first at the residential side. Now, the first thing that we see on the residential side for the MatSu Valley is the number of properties that are currently available. This time last year, there was about 313 that were available. This year, it's 384. So this is, we're starting to see more properties coming on in the market than we saw in the year before. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know this trend has been going on really since April. Now, before everyone gets too excited and starts talking about a collapsing market and all this stuff, I'm really not seeing that anytime soon, just because we have, even with this increase, it's still probably about half or a third of what the inventory usually is for this time of year pre-pandemic. So despite the inventory going up, it's still not where it was before. So this is good stuff, and it's going in a direction that I believe is going to be good for everyone long term, but we got a long ways to go before this is just earth-shattering numbers and stuff that we should be just rolling out the headlines for. This is something to be paying attention to, not necessarily something that's going to be just world ending. The next thing that we're seeing is the number of properties that actually sold on the residential side went from about 188 the year before to 133, which is not a huge surprise. Again, when you have a more compressed inventory that's available, even comparatively from what we saw the year before, you're going to see less houses selling. Not only that, interest rates have gone up, and that does start pulling back some of the demand from what we saw the year before. And if we want to pull that thread even more, then yeah, the year before was definitely a watershed year, so it's kind of hard to really compare anything against that. Now, the next thing that we're seeing is that the average sold price for residential properties went from about $362,000 the year before to about $380,000 the next year, which means that we saw about a 9.8% increase for the average sold price in the MatSu Valley, which is pretty healthy. That's actually one of the healthiest, fastest appreciating markets in the entire area. It is sliding back from where it was the year before, though. So the year before, we were sitting at about 15.59% increase for the average sold price, which means the rate at which things are going up is starting to cool down a little bit, which is not surprising. This is something I've been saying for a long time, that we were going to start seeing this, where not really seeing depreciation, where like the values went from 360 something to like 350 the next year. But we are starting to see kind of a pulling back of the rate at which things were appreciating, which if you're a buyer, I'm sure you're all on board for that. Let's take a break here real quick. For those of you who have been watching for a little bit, you do know that I host a podcast called the Alaskan Journey Podcast, and the purpose of that podcast is really tell the stories of people who have recently moved up here to Alaska, or those who've lived up here for a long time. So if you're thinking about making a move up here, that might be a great place to start, so you can kind of start seeing what other people have done to accomplish what it is that you're wanting to do. So link for that is going to be in the description section down below. We've got tons of episodes on there, so jump in there, go treat yourself. And without further ado, I'll let you go ahead and get back into today's market update. Now, we're going to cover condos, and before I spend a whole lot of time diving into this, I am just going to caveat this by saying condos are not a really big part of the entire MatSu Valley market makeup, if you would. It's not a big part of the entire market as a whole, but some people do buy condos here, and so we're going to cover it anyway. So number one, we see that the number of condos currently available, it was 2 this time last year, and now it's 4. Boom, there's your crazy headline. Condo inventory up by 100% from the year before. Next thing that we see is that a number of condos that sold this time last year was 6, and now it's 3. So yeah, we're starting to see the number of condos actually selling has gone down, but it's such a small pool. It's hard to really extrapolate a whole lot of causation or a whole lot of reasons behind that. Now, the next thing we see is that the average sold price for condos went from about $190,000 to about $267,000, which for those of you who are paying attention, the average sold price for condos is pretty aggressive. That is going up. Yep, there we go. 40.3%. increase, which is, I think, one of the most aggressive average sold price increases I've seen in any asset classes for the past couple of years of doing this. And it's just such a small pool. It's really easy to throw the entire thing off. There was probably a couple of larger or brand new condos or both that sold and really kind of threw the entire thing off. So yes, average sold price technically right around $262,000, which is doing pretty good. Let's go ahead and take a break real quick here. For those who've been watching for a little bit, you do know that I focus on the South Central Alaska area, but there's an entire state out there that some of you would be more interested in living in. And so for that reason, I brought in a number of real estate agents or licensees, as they're known in this state, into the channel to really talk about what's going on in their real estate markets in their neck of the woods. So we've got people coming in from Fairbanks, Kodiak, Kenai, Homer, and Juneau that are going to be talking about what's going on in their respective markets. So do make sure you're watching for those videos. Make sure you give them plenty of views, plenty of likes, and go in the comment sections and give them lots of great comments. Now, let's go and finish up today's market update looking at what's going on in the multifamily market in the MatSu Valley. Now, this time last year, we see there was 22 multifamily properties that were available, and now we're sitting at 46, which that is a huge jump in the available inventory. So looking at the residential side, we see a little bit of a creeping up over the year over year, which is about to be expected. And I mean, if you look at other markets such as Eagle River, you kind of see the same thing where it's like about or just barely above where we're before. So you can see we're about to turn a corner there. What's available in multifamily in the MatSu Valley has just really shot up to the point where it's not quite, but pretty close to what we were pre-pandemic levels. So if you're an investor, this is good news for you. It means that there are more options, a lot more options available than what there have been for the past couple of years. Now, the next thing that we see is the number of multifamily properties that have actually sold went from 18 the year before to 9 this year. So I believe a big contributing factor here is going to be that the interest rates went up since then. And so you're going to start seeing the demand for the multi-unit asset class start to pull back a little bit. And that's not surprising at all. That is exactly what I would expect to see, because this is purely a non-emotion based purchase for the people that are buying these properties. And if the numbers don't balance out, then they just don't balance out. That's not to say that you can't make a property work if it's a higher interest rate. I mean, people have done it for decades. And you can certainly buy something and refinance later, but it needs to cash flow at a certain rate in order for it to be worth your time to go into it. So yeah, I really expect the interest rates going up has been probably the largest single contributing factor to the number of properties actually being sold going down. Now, the next thing that we see finally is that the average sold price for the multifamily properties went from about $462,000 this time last year to about $493,000 this time this year, which means we're actually sitting at about a 6.3% increase for the average sold price for the multifamily market, which, that's still an increase. That's still pretty healthy, and not really anticipating that dropping like crazy anytime soon. But the thing that we do need to just keep an eye on the multifamily market is just, number one, the interest rates and seeing how that's going to impact what investors are willing to pay for properties, because it is way more tied directly to numbers than what it is on the residential side, and also what's going on in the rental market as far as the rents, which that realistically is not going to be going down anytime you're living in an economy and a time with inflation. Then I'm sorry, rents are not going to be going down anytime soon. That's just kind of a reality until inflation goes away. So what is the takeaway if you're a buyer? The takeaway is that there's going to be more options available to you right now if you're a buyer in the MatSu Valley. I kind of suspect the reason a lot of the inventory we've seen right now is there is because the MatSu Valley does more new construction homes than really anywhere else in the entire state. If you are a seller, it's still a strong market. You're still going to be able to get a great price for your house, but you have to understand the market that your neighbors sold their property in is different from this one now, okay? So it's not like you just put any old price on it now and 10 people are going and bidding it up. Those days are behind us, at least for now. You're going to have to really pay attention to, details on the property. We're going to have to make sure it's appealing, and we're going to have to be ready to be on the market for a little bit longer than what we were before. I sure hope this market update's been useful for you. If it has, give this video a like, and we'll see you next time.